Welcome to the VBA tutorial. This tutorial is meant for the absolute beginner, like somebody that doesn't know what a macro is or what VBA even means. So if that's you, then follow along and let's create your first macro and we'll expand. These are going to be short clips and each one is supposed to expand on the previous one. So stick around and let's do this. First, open up Microsoft Excel, and what you should have is a Excel that looks similar to this with the ribbons up at the top. As you can see, the menus up here, there's nothing called developer. We need the developer tool to start working with macros. So click on File, and then down here where it says Options, click on that, and go to Customize Ribbon. At this point, on the right hand side it says Customize the ribbon. It should default to something like this. If not, you might need to change this to main tabs, and down here it'll say developer and it's unchecked. You want to check that. If developer is not there, you'd have to go find it in the left hand side. I would click on all commands and try to find it that way, but more than likely it's going to be sitting there without a checkbox. So make sure that's checked and hit OK. Now what normally happens when you do that is you get a developer menu right here, so a developer tab, you get that. Then you also usually get a little button down here, and the little button is going to be there and it's going to say start macro recording. I don't have that right now and I'm not sure why, but if you right click on this, you have all these different options and it's going to say macro recording right here, not recording. So check that. Now you'll have a little button there. So let's get off that now. See this button here? There it is. What a macro is, it's just going to record exactly what keystrokes, what mouse movements I do. This is, don't forget, this is the very beginner's guide here. We're going to expand on this. Okay, so as a first macro, what we're going to do is we're going to auto size all these columns so that they all fit. As you can see, if I click on C1, it says another column that is long, but I don't see all that. It's not in my view. I want to expand C to be really long. So instead of doing that manually every time, let's say you have a file every day and it comes in and every day you've got to do this. Anything that's repeatable is really good for macros. Let's do this. So down here, you're going to click on it and it's going to start recording a macro as soon as you hit OK. So right now it's called macro 3. Let's call this column auto size. Now you have a choice to store this macro in your personal macro workbook, new workbook, or this workbook. So if it's in this workbook, this macro will only work for this particular file, book1.xlsx or whatever it is, right? So you got to be careful. If you want to create a macro that's only good for that particular file, then you click on this workbook. If you've got a macro that's good for multiple files and you want to use it for plenty of other things, you might want to put it in your personal macro workbook, which would work no matter what file you open up. Column auto size, we're going to do in personal macro workbook. Click OK, and now it's recording. It's not recording everything. It's recording my mouse clicks, my mouse drags, my keystrokes, things like that. Even settings, anything you click on will be recorded into VBA code. Okay, so in Microsoft Excel, you can double click on each one of these bars between the columns and it auto sizes them for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Click on all of them. This isn't the most efficient way or the most dynamic way, but for a first macro, this is what we're going to learn. Okay, so they're all auto sized. I'm even going to move the scroll bar real quick just to check and move it back. Okay, that's it. In fact, we're going to hit stop here. Now that's done. Let's go ahead and change these back now. I'm going to show you how to run this macro that we just created. Let's say that you open up a new file, it's another day, and it comes in looking like this again. So in your developer tab, you can click on Visual Basic or you can click on macros. Let's click on macros because that's the most simple way. Click on macros and you'll see a macro here. It's in your personal XLSB file and it's called column auto size. If you just click on run, you'll see, I'm going to do it now, it did the trick. And later on I'm going to show you some other more dynamic ways to do this. Now, to save this, you'd have to save your file as an XLSM file. So when you go to save this file, wherever you save it, it's going to default to XLSX probably, and if I hit save, it's probably going to give me, well, it didn't give me an error, but it's not going to save that macro. You have to save it as an XLSM file, the M meaning macro. So save it as an XLSM. And the next time you open this up, that macro will still be there under macro.